so much for being here. We said we should start the year. Sandeep, falling off the
Yes.
small. We thought it would be great to start the year and have a mixture of some founder members and our entrepreneur members. And January was a shorter.
Are you a member of TIE?
No.
We
I'm not.
planned for it to get one going, but we're very happy to see all of you here. Without further ado,
And how will you after this be with?
Jay Parks being our sponsor for our research. And
So one of the co-founder is in US.
Studies,
yes.
Was always there, right?
To say a few
No, he
words.
moved in 2017 when he pivoted.
Oh,
Today
now?
is going to be rocking. It's the first kickoff of the year, and we're going to continue to have these meetings. So please come along and enjoy the session. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So, this is Pawan. Myself and my brother Darshan. We represent Jay Farms. We are India's largest creative community of managed farmlands and coffee estates. So, we do invite you to come be part of it. If you are looking for a vacation home in Sakleshwar, Chikmagalur, or upcoming projects in India, we invite you to be part of it. And I invite you all for this amazing mixer. We are always looking forward for Bhaskar and Rohit to share some insights. And like I always say, anytime the learning never stops. So let the learning continue, and over to you, Vidwan, over to you, Bhaskar.
Go. Right.
Oh,
We have two mics.
yes.
Yeah, it comes. It comes sequence.
Thank you. Okay.
You're okay there, or you want to sit here?
This one?
You're okay there, or you want to sit here?
I'm okay. You want to sit here?
No, I'm okay. I thought you have some preference for like which side and all. After all the media training and all.
I got used to every possible way.
Hi, folks. Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear us? The back row? Yes? All right. Thanks for coming in. Busy Friday, typical Bangalore conundrums. Thank you all for making it. My name is Rohit. I am the co-founder of Cloud9 Group of Hospitals. We have a fair few number of centers in Bangalore and totally about 47 across the country. India's leading mother and child specialty care chain of hospitals. We started way back in 2006 and scaled it as India's biggest and strongest and whatever else terms that you can put in to be the number one in the market. We created the sector and a lot of responsibilities towards that. 22, I pivoted to starting my own venture capital fund along with a couple of my partners. We call it Peer Capital. We're still in Fund 1, investing in early stage tech-driven companies. So that's a little bit about me. Before I hand over to Bhaskar, quick check. How many of you here are shareholders of Amagi? Please be truthful. No? How many of you are bankers or analysts or wealth advisors or the kinds? Okay. Please note, this is not an earnings call. This is not, we'll not be giving out recommendations or tips or if you have to book orders tomorrow when the market's open, then that's at your risk. Please don't quote Bhaskar or me. But yes, before Bhaskar takes over, I have very fond memories of Amagi. Bhaskar won't know, but they were incubated in NSR Cell. For the ones who've been to IIM Bangalore, this is the entrepreneurship cell, which was actually pretty much OG at that time, right? Nobody else had something like this. No B school in the country had something like this where they could incubate startups. I was on campus 2009 and 10, and when we went to NSR Cell, one of the names which caught my attention was Amagi. One, the name itself was pretty interesting. And was very curious to understand what they do, right? With that, maybe we can have Bhaskar do a quick introduction.
Yeah, I'm not going to do a lot of introduction, but I think you're going to hear my voice for 30 minutes. I think I'll try to limit what I'm going to tell you right now. My name is Bhaskar. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Amagi. So I'll leave it at it, but we're going to talk about the story and others. And,
So, I don't know from before, like 2 years back, we were just looking at the images. 2 years back, Bhaskar and I were on the same panel at IMD talking about a lot of stuff. 2 years is a long time, a lot of things have changed. Obviously, he's gone public already. There was another gentleman with us, Anish of Capillary. They've gone public. I'm waiting in the wings to probably go next. But to get started, we have about 45 odd minutes to chat about the journey of Bhaskar, Amagi, the overall understanding of what it takes to build a tech company, India to the world, and also being a startup and going public as well, right? So I'm just going to refer my notes so that I don't miss out on anything. One thing again, Bhaskar, I think over the next 30-40 minutes, what would love to cover is how Amagi was built as something which is so strongly Indian, quietly global, but has not been linear in any form or fashion, right? So we'd love to kind of get your views on that. And as we get started, would love to understand the origin story. 2008, when you guys started, this was a time, at least for me, again, I'm giving away a lot of things. 2009 is when I actually created my LinkedIn ID in campus because everybody said that is cool. Today we all live on LinkedIn and whatnot. So 2008, I don't think anybody had heard much about cloud, right? For me, as an engineer who graduated just around the computer science engineer who graduated around the .com bust, internet was something which left us with sharp pains, right? So how did you guys come up with something in 2008 to say this is something we want to do? Help us understand what was the mindset. And just for people here, everybody heard of Netflix? Netflix was still selling DVDs, guys, in 2008.
That's
right?
true. That's true. That's true. Again, I'll step back, Rohit, a bit more because given the history of things might be useful to corroborate how we came to the 2008 milestone to some extent, right? So again, we are three co-founders, Srini, Vidya and myself. Three of us go a long way back. We know each other from our college days, and that's 33 years back. We studied in the same college and pretty much in the same class. So we're good friends in college. And essentially that's where the dreams started. Essentially we wanted to become entrepreneurs. Classic middle-class families, nobody would ever want you to be encouraged to become an entrepreneur in those days. And I remember my first time when we did it, my uncles used to come and say, what happened? You didn't get a job. So you actually started an entrepreneurship journey. So that's sort of the times that I'm talking about. This is a 95, 96 time frame. Long story short, 95, we started our journeys together. We came to Bangalore for the first time, study engineers, computer science, loved software, and that was a common love for all of us was software. So we three of us came here, worked in Texas Instruments. TI was the first multinational company here. So we spent about a couple of years there. I had a short stint at IIT Bombay for my master's, dropped out of the course 3 months, I just came back. Didn't want to get into academics, wanted to always be an entrepreneur, so just came back. We started our first company together at the age of 24. So Srini, Vidya and myself really wanted to build something out of India for the world. So that was a really, really big passion for us. So 2000, we started a company on wireless multimedia, which is Bluetooth technology that we all know today. It was not Bluetooth in those days, so it was kind of just getting started. So we started serendipitously getting into that space and started building technology for Bluetooth. And incidentally, we built the first Bluetooth watch in the world in 2003. And incidentally, nobody wanted it. I think it was too ahead of its time. And so there was no iOS, there was no Android. So nobody wanted this watch. And I remember going to every other Casio, to Swatch, to Fossil, to everybody to sell a watch. And they said, who would want to wear a watch which is connected to your phone? Nobody wants it, right? So that's 2003. Then we built headphones, wireless headphones and others. Technology was interesting. We were just young 24-year-olds and had all the energy to go do build whatever we want to build. We did for 5 years, and interestingly, a Nasdaq listed company came along and said, "Hey, this technology is very interesting. We would like to buy that out." So, and we were 29. We didn't know. We were self-funded completely. So we were kind of paycheck after paycheck. We were trying to figure out how to get things done. And but at that point in time, we just said, "Okay." In the jiffy, we just sold the company. So 2005, we had actually sold the company.
Did you guys wait for?
5 years. So the self-funded, so it was good. We said, okay, let's do that. It came back, and I spent a couple of years with them about stuff, and but always there was an urge for us to be entrepreneurs. So we had actually decided to come again and actually start doing it. When we looked at starting Amagi, one of the first things we did is not about which business to do. We said we're going to build it for the next. The longevity was very important for us. So we said this time we will not sell this company. We will build it forever. So that was the base motivation for us to really build it. Right? So we started with 3 tenets. We said whatever we build, it should be large enough that we can actually build it for a longer duration. Means it should be a larger company. Second, we said it should be disruptive. To a point of arrogance, if you will, it's like pre-Amagi and post-Amagi. We wanted to have the industry should change to some extent, and that was kind of where we started. And we didn't know what we were going to do, but at least we were clear that we will kind of get through that sort of a model to do that. Third was we said we will build something in India for India, and that's where the journey started for us in 2008. But 3 of us been together pretty much all our 33 years, good friends, and Vidya is also my spouse, so we kind of did get married post-entrepreneurship. So that's been the journey.
It's awesome. I want to do a quick poll again. How many of you all in the last 24 hours used a streaming service? Streaming service. Netflix. Everybody? I didn't see too many hands. Everybody?
Everybody would have used it, right?
Amongst the ones who kept their hands up, do you know how the technology works? You know? Yeah, you know. Nobody, everyone's dropped their hands quietly. Like, if I pay my subscription, it's enough. You know? So, with that, would love to understand. Tell us in English, what does Amagi do today, right? We know that at least from an aspiration, like you said, you want to be building for a really long term. If AWS is the backbone for many for computing, Amagi is possibly perceived as something similar from a media distribution point of view, right? So, tell us about what you guys do.
Okay, well, what we do is primarily we are in the media technology business. So we work with TV channels, content owners, creators, studios, live sports, news, anybody who's creating any sort of content. Essentially from mid-tier companies to large TV networks worldwide as our customers. So we don't work with the influencers and social platforms, but we would really work with the larger networks, right? What we do is what you don't see. That's what so that's exactly what we do. Is we are behind the screen. So what we call ourselves is what's called glass-to-glass infrastructure. Essentially, if you look at a TV channel today or any sort of sports producer or news producer, there's a lot of complex things that happens, starting from the camera where they capture the content till the point it reaches your screen, be it on your phone or your television or wherever you're watching the content. What Amagi does is provide a software infrastructure. Think about it as like SAP or an ERP for this business, where they can run their complete operations on a cloud software environment. Why is it a big deal at all in this place? If you look at it, is before Amagi, and this TV existed for 50 plus years, people have always been doing this. But they were doing it with hardware. Typically, people have offices. You would have seen OB vans, which are standing outside stadiums. We continue to see that, right? So that's a big part of the infrastructure. They have studios. They have a lot of equipment, people, humans doing all the work at the back end. And these are all run on servers and hardware that sits in all these offices. So before it comes to us, the complexity at the back end has always been managed through a lot of capital expenditure in terms of hardware, buildings and cameras and OB vans, a lot of infrastructure of this. Amagi, as 3 of us as naively as where we were, and we continue to be in some sense, is that we said, why is that all of this should be hardware? So we started with the whole premise saying, from camera, why would we not have an internet connection to a cloud infrastructure and pretty much run everything on the cloud, and anyway consumers are going to stream it to their homes? Why should there be a single shred of hardware in the whole value chain? That's the genesis of the journey that we started. It's a boring business, I can tell you, because it's B2B. Everything is business to business. So we are not in a consumer angle, we are not on the screen, but everything behind the screen is what we really run today as a company. So that's a software company building that for the world. And pretty much we are a global company. We are largely, our biggest business are the US and Europe and Asia is where the largest business are.
Amazing. So, how competitive is this? Especially at the time you guys started, and from India to the world. Obviously, there's always a lot more to prove. How competitive was it then? How competitive is it now?
Two parts, right? When we started this whole journey, this has always been a hardware world. It's always filled with hardware and filled with people through which everything was getting done. So we were signed of creating a contra thought process of building into the cloud. And every time I tell my team as well as I hear the Mahatma Gandhi quote is what happened to us, right? So first they laughed at us because everybody told us who on earth would actually create it on the cloud. No broadcast in the world, no TV channels can actually run, given its security, given the delays, given sports, given high cost of content, nobody's going to do it. So they laughed at us initially. Then slowly they figured out that we're going to be bigger. Then they started really becoming angry with us, starting to really laugh. They fought with us, and eventually we won the whole game in terms of really managing all of this. And today, every hardware vendor is building a software cloud system, which they were laughing at us 10 years back. Yeah. So that's been the journey for us, and we've been very fortunate to be in the right place, right time. That's important. I truly feel luck matters a lot in all entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. And did the macro help at all at that time? Like how the internet was becoming cheaper, more available, how people wanted to go beyond the conventional reach of broadcast and such, right? And what were those signals that you guys saw that you said that this is a great business to kind of pursue?
See, we are all children of the market, Rohit, and that's the way I see it, right? When markets are happening, you're at the right place, right time. You can actually build a fairly large, sustainable business. To that extent, the ecosystem is changing. You're absolutely right. In fact, in 2010, we started with streaming as the basis. But we figured out it's too early. Nobody wants streaming, and it's just getting started. YouTube was just starting to become big. Netflix was not even there, just getting started. So we didn't see that whole trend line happen. But when 2016, 17, the writing was on the wall, that streaming is going to become big. And that drove a lot of the decisions we made of saying, let's go after that. Did we know we'll be successful? I don't think so. But did we know that could be an interesting future? Absolutely, yes. So that's where we started.
Interesting. I just want to share that, he keeps mentioning a lot about cloud. I told you I built Cloud9 group of hospitals. They have no cloud, the same cloud that he talks about. I thought it would be funny to fool some investors to come and think that it's a technology company and put some money in. People did come, but that's a different story. Quick question to the audience again. How many of you here are founders? Oh, nice. How many of you guys have been building on the same idea that you started? How many of you have been doing it for 10 years? Not bad. Nice. The reason I ask this is what, Bhaskar just alluded to a little before, right? I also mentioned this, that no journey is as linear as it appears to be. I remember, like I said, when I first met them long ago, they were doing something called geo-targeted advertising, am I right?
That's true.
Right? So when you guys started, how did that pivot to what you guys are doing today? Again, what were those strong signals, hard signals? Yes, you were there. You were seeing some of these kind of becoming evident as it may be, but still requires a founder to kind of do that hard pivot to say that, listen, I have to do this. And also, Bhaskar, was there a time where it led to a situation that we have to hard pivot or die?
Okay, two parts. you'll hear the story and you can decide on that last part of the statement. See, 2008 is when we came back together and said, let's start a company. 2008 and 9 was largely, we were debating, we had our first children, all of that was happening at home, family and all of that. So we kind of spending time debating and discussing. Three of us are very close to each other. Although obviously we are literally opposite characters, but the core value is the same. So it kind of helped us to be part of the whole journey. Said, let's go build it for longer. As I told you, longevity was very important for us to build it. So 2009, I remember, and again, this is a very interesting anecdote that happened was we were looking at multiple different stuff. We looked at targeted advertising on TV, which was like television was new, in terms of streaming was not happening. So we said,
Can I just say that itself was like pretty cool at
that
time,
was a
right?
big idea. I truly believe even today it would have been a big idea, but I'll come to that separately. So the idea was that we were looking at targeted advertising, and I remember sitting in a park in 2009-10 time frame. I think near JP Nagar on that mini forest that existed there. Three of us were fighting at each other literally, because saying why would targeting work? Let's talk about it and all that. And I remember one small boy walked up, and he was just kind of asking us. He was pestering, saying stop, and said, obviously we were arguing with each other so much, and then suddenly we stopped and said, what happened? What do you want? This person said, no, see, I'm actually a palmistry person. I can tell you your future. And then
Is he on your board?
that struck me a lot. And again, I think we stopped and said, I told my founders, Srini and Vidya, I said, see this guy knows that on a Monday morning at 11 a.m., you're sitting in a park, you're absolutely jobless. Clearly, you need to know your future. And he's targeting us here, which exactly tells you that it will work. So that is the genesis of our journey to start off with. And we went into what's called targeted advertisement television. In those days, in 2009-10 time frame, India was largely cable.
So market was always India or global?
Okay, we forced ourselves to wanting to do it in India. Because just to give you context, the first business we did was very global.
Okay.
So it was like a lot of travel, and we had just got our first children. We said, okay, let's build something in India for India. And we were also stubborn that we will not replicate a model that's available somewhere else, but build it very natively for an Indian context. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but we kind of were very stubborn, right? So we started that. In 2010, we launched the service in India, where you can have a TV channel like a Z or a Colors, but you can buy advertising only for your city. So Bangalore, you can buy a separate ad. Mumbai, you can do a different ad. Delhi will have a different ad. And such locations across almost 20,000 locations across the country, we carpeted it with a lot of hardware infrastructure too. Satellite beam was replaced, right? So we're kind of splitting the satellite beam into it. Hardcore technology, but interestingly, technology was the easiest part. The business model was fairly straightforward. We go to a TV channel and buy a spot, ad spot. If you look at it, a 30-seconder in a, let's say, I don't know, you're watching, in those days, maybe Kyoki Saas or something like that, watching, a 30-seconder we would buy. Let's say it's a 1 lakh of rupees. We buy that from the TV channel, split it, and Mumbai advertiser will be paying maybe 30,000 or 40,000 rupees. Bangalore will be paying 20,000 rupees. Punjab will be paying another 30,000 rupees. So if you split it, sum of the parts is becoming greater than the whole. That was the core of the business model. Essentially, everybody sees value in targeting, and they're able to get it on
So
spot.
that means if I'm in Bangalore watching the same series, I would see a different ad
You will see. That's
than
correct.
what a
Correct.
friend would see.
Correct. In this is 2010. Obviously, technology is kind of personalized today, but in those days, it was kind of very big magical moment.
So again, well, I know the story, but I thought way back then this was super cool.
It was, and I think technology was very good, and the business model looked very good on Excel sheets. Literally, when we started executing on that was the challenge. And like 3 bullheaded entrepreneurs, we said, no, we're going to solve this problem. I remember going and selling technology to Z and Colors. They said, wow, interesting technology, but we've never sold to local advertisers. We said, okay, not a problem, we will sell. So we took on the advertising stuff. I remember going to local advertisers. So we used to go into Hyderabad and Bangalore to silk sari stores, to milk dairies. We used to do it ourselves. So we used to walk in, sell, because we want to understand how ad sales works. We didn't know what. So we started doing that. Then we realized that people wanted TV creatives, because TV creatives was very expensive. So we said, okay, let's go solve the problem. So we created a studio. We hired studio artists. We built technology to make it cheaper to really build TV creatives. Then we realized people said, oh, we don't know how to do media planning. We said, okay, not a problem. We have a solution. We built media planning systems. Then people said we didn't know how to measure. We actually worked with BARC and Nielsen to create measurement systems. So the next 4 years was extremely intense because suddenly from a technology company or what we knew, we were far behind in terms of building a complete ad sales organization across every part of the country, and we had started stuff. Interestingly, in 2015, I remember very distinctly is Gopal Vittal, GV, he was part of Airtel before. He was part of Unilever. And he heard of this idea and he called up and said, Bhaskar, this is very interesting. What you guys are doing? We want to use it. Because if you look at it, earlier days we were only selling to the sardine manufacturers here, local, so everybody. Because we had this whole romantic feeling of having a David versus Goliath battle. We said we're going to kill Unilever by actually building the soap manufacturers in Mumbai, Karnataka to become bigger, right? That was the thought process.
Till we get their attention.
Till we get it. So eventually Unilever called us. This seems to be the biggest villain in the pack calling us. So we go there and these guys said, you know what, we will buy all your targeted advertising, but keep us state level. So we pivoted the business at that point in time to say we will support all the large advertisers. That was the...
When was this?
This is 2015.
Okay.
It was interesting because the business suddenly started exponentially growing. Just to give you context, by 2016, we were close to about 200 crores of revenue at that point in time, right? So we kind of rocket, almost like a sky, this kind of business rocker going. But that was also the beginning of an end. The reason was we were so super successful with the advertisers because Unilever, Wipro, P&G, Glaxo, Pepsi, everybody started coming into the platform big time. And that was a big threat for the TV networks. They figured out that if Amagi started mushrooming and growing faster, everybody in the country would start doing target advertising and not national advertising. So that was the seed of a conflict, where at the end of it, they started increasing price. So 2016, they doubled the price of the inventory.
Just for you guys.
Just for us.
Wow.
So we were buying larger than Unilever in the country for some of the larger networks. So we were buying more volumes and yet getting double the price of other advertisers.
And Bhaskar, if I may, this technology at that time was unique to you guys. Like,
Unique.
Like the broadcasters themselves didn't have this technology.
No, nobody had it. It's unique, right? So 2016, we were staring at a problem. We had spent $25 million. We had investors like the likes of Premji. We had NS Raghavan, co-founder of Infosys, had invested. We had Mayfield Ventures. Everybody believed in the model. They've seen the growth. 2016, we are staring at a problem. 2 times the cost of, and as you know, in India, there's an oligopoly. Only there are 3 or 4 networks pretty much control all the inventory and ad inventory. So that was a moment of decision that we had to make. So I remember end 2016, walking to our board meeting and saying we're going to shut this business down.
And can I just ask, at that scale, were you guys profitable?
We were not profitable. I think we would have been close to profitability because of this 2 times spent, the cost of the inventory going up. I don't think we would ever be profitable.
Sure. No, the only reason I ask is because at a scale of about 200 crores, staring at near profitability, that's still a great business to be in, right?
I thought we were going to build 1,000+ crore business on that, right? So that was the thought process. But 2016 was a kind of a moment in time. We had $5 million in the bank, $20 million spent already. We're walking into the board meeting and telling them, you know what, doesn't make sense. And it's been, business doubled at that point. So I was announcing the doubling of the business and telling them we're not planning to do this business. So it was kind of an oddball scenario. So it was not about failure at that point in time. My board was completely lost. They said, are you guys sober or did you smoke something before you came here? And then we told them, no. See, again, that's the point in time where if you look at it, 3 of us were very clear. We want to build it for the next few decades. So we wanted to build something large, sustainable, and that was a very important thing for us. We were happy to let go of the 8 years that we had spent building this business and said, let's build it for the future. So we went and pivoted the business completely. Fortunately, our board was, they were not happy about it, but they said, okay, if 3 of you don't want to do it, the only promise that we told our board is that we don't want a single investor in our company to lose a single dollar because of the pivot that we will make. We said we will try our best we will never shut down the business. We will take the same business with the same shareholders, and even though they don't believe in the thesis, we will at least try making it successful for all of them to give the money back. So that was the genesis of that pivot that we made.
It's amazing. I think So my takeaway in this part of the conversation was that despite having a fairly successful sort of run, fairly unique proposition, there's still a requirement to pivot because you saw a larger opportunity, right? At that time,
Well,
obviously the opportunity was not as visible.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I don't think the opportunity was apparent
Yeah.
of what the future was. But we were clear that the past is not going to drive a fairly large business that we can control and build and become profitable. So it was a choice of the past not working rather than the future. We didn't know the future. Actually, technically, we didn't know the future.
I think that's amazing because also I have seen a fair few things where this is typically where a lot of founder conflict also happen, where one of them say that listen, I don't buy into this idea where you have to do a pivot now when there's a great business, right? So credit to the three of you to again stick together on this despite being at such milestones, right? So that's amazing. Again, question to the audience. How long, to the founders here, how long did you guys take before you started seeing profits? No one has a profitable company. I thought someone's built for over 10 years. How are you doing it then? Amazing. No, but this is the reality, right? This is it shows all of us do want to build strong, do want to build long, but I think at some sense we have to start seeing profits, right? So especially now, Bhaskar, question to you again, and again, given that you are a public company, you can try and trim out how much of the details you don't want to share, but give us a sense of how does this business work? Is it more like a SaaS company where you do annualized contracts? And how do you know that this is compounding? To the vision that you guys have that we need to build large businesses, how do you see this business? Where do you see, like I have some of the inputs that it's been growing 30%. And how did you guys think that this is something as a scalable business, right? So tell us a little bit about the business model.
Okay, if you go back to the 2016-17 timeframe, we knew that the business we were doing, what I call the 1.2 of the business, is not working. So, but we had to pick a bet on the future. And fortunately, for that 8 years that we had spent, we understood some bit of media, business, streaming starting to happen. So at least had a good understanding of what's happening in the business. We found it to be very laggard-ish in adoption of technology. And that's the boat that we said, okay, let's go solve that problem. And I remember the conversations we used to have is how big is going to be the total available market of this business. And I remember some of my founder came back saying, Bhaskar, all my calculations tell me we cannot build greater than a $10 million business. Okay. And I said, okay, that's a good start. Let's start because we are now at zero. Better to be at $10 million rather than zero. Let's kind of start the whole proposition. That's where we started this journey. But one thing that happened is we took a very hard call that we will now take one principle out, which is the India-only business, and said, let's build it for the globe. So we replaced that one statement and said, we will build it for the globe. And now let's go with the vengeance from India and build it for the globe. So my co-founder, Srini, pretty much packed his bags, had a young daughter and a child. They were all like 9th grade and 6th grade children and his wife. And one day he goes to them and says, you know what, this business, we're getting to zero, but you know what, we're going to all move to the US. Think about their family, and we were uprooted, the whole family. They went to a new country, to a place, settling there, getting children to school, and started the business in 2017 again. Literally, we were at scratch, literally starting the whole thing. Fortunately, the team was very, very strong. The technology team that we worked with, these people said, we trust you. We will work with you folks. I know it's a big pivot. We don't know where we're going, but we would like to support you through the process. And even today, some of them have been there for pretty much the last almost 17 years. They've been together with all of us, right? That's the start of that journey for us.
Awesome. So, and how big is the team across the globe?
Today we are close to 1,000 plus people. And I don't know we need so many people, but we are 1,000 plus people. And the Bangalore is our headquarter, where the large part of our R&D happens. We have an R&D team in Croatia, in Zagreb, and in Poland. Okay. And we do some of the technologies there as well. We have obviously the biggest market for us, US. Okay. So we have a large part of our sales, support, and infrastructure teams in the US, Europe, and Asia Pac. So all the three are markets for us. And for example, just to give you 72 hours back, we ran the Super Bowl for all of US. Super Bowl is like the IPL finals in the NFL, the Football League. So we are the back end for all of US watching through our systems. We had the Winter Olympics running right now on Amagi's infrastructure in the US. We've done Grammys this year, which is running on Amagi's infrastructure. And we did Paris Olympics. So fortunately, nobody knows that the Banagata Road company is actually powering some of this in the US to some extent, right? So that's been the journey that we've been going through.
Amazing. Congratulations. I want to also ask, given that AI is on everybody's mind, right? So, what is the sort of impact of AI the way you guys see it, both internally as well as externally? Internally, in terms of, I know you just mentioned in jest, and please don't take that away, to say that you have too many people. How will AI kind of impact any of such things, at least from a technology or keeping pace with the changes and so on? And tell us something like a soothsayer statement saying AI will come and do this. I'm sure you guys are thinking of some of those things, right? Like, tell us how should we look at AI, especially in the business at Amagi?
No, it's an amazing opportunity, and I think I really, most of my weekends sometimes I'm really waiting for the Monday to start because I need to go back to work and want to do things, right? So it's such a transformative technology, and I'm sure for everybody in every discipline that's a change. But I think for us, it's been an extremely huge opportunity in front of us. And the reason is for a couple of things, right? One is it suddenly supercharges us to do much faster. What I think we did in the last 10 years, we could do it in a year now, literally, right? The sort of the complexities that we can actually solve today is much, much faster. The speed of thought to speed of execution is much, much higher. The barrier is our changing in mindset more than anything else. So obviously that's the biggest journey that I'm going through in our own environments to get everybody to feel that this is not an incremental change, but a foundational change that's happening across the world. What the capability that we're getting, right? And like I was kind of looking at, this is almost the closest that you can get to a philosopher's stone, right? From sand to thought. You had sand, which is the most abundant resource in the planet Earth today, and that is now converted to thought, which is like most magical thing that you could think of, right? So that's the biggest opportunity. If you look at it from a media business, I think truly there's going to be a change because obviously if you look at it, given Gen AI, obviously content creation has dramatically changed. This is a big change in the economics of the business. The businesses were built the assumption that content production will be expensive and only few people can do the best Hollywood blockbuster movies. That is gone. The moment you take that to zero, and assuming it's going to go towards zero, what's the value of this business? Is the only thing that's valuable is the human time that we spend as humans. That's the only constraint in this whole business. Content creation has become near zero, or it will become near zero. Content distribution is near zero. The only thing is, how can I keep consumers and viewers to discover content and watch content? And the time you spend watching content is the only good thing, right? And like, I think that's a very, Machiavellian thought to some extent is that people go jobless and there'll be more entertainment because people have to watch content. That sort of is the world that we're really kind of going into. Obviously, as you would have heard, that because of the productivity improvements, and for example, it's been a very human-intensive jobs in the media operations business. We're already building a lot of autonomous agentic infrastructure, which will start to replace a lot of the human aspects of it. The reality is that's just we're going through that process as we speak. It's going to be a hard journey for everybody. I don't think anybody in the world will not be impacted by this technology. But I feel very optimistic of the future of how this will create new job opportunities, new way of doing things, and it's going to be much more interesting than we see this. So I don't have a negative view of it. I feel truly positive about the change that we can bring both to our society at large, what we can do.
Amazing. Shifting to one of the more recent topics, I don't know if you all know, Amagi is one of the most recent tech startups which have gone public as recent as last month. After 17, 18 years of existence in some form or fashion. How many of you all here want to see that in your lifetime, take your companies public? Yeah. How many of you think you're ready? Not bad. Not bad. So, tell us, Bhaskar, when did you guys know that you were ready? Right? What was that moment which, maybe the first thought, given that you guys, you are all coherent in your vision, did you say that I'm going to build this so that in 5 years we'll go public? Or when did that happen? Right? And hold on to that thought. You had also, I'm quoting you now, in TOI, you had said there was no real pressure. A public company delivers value and gives employees liquidity. That's great. I know that's great media training as well. What was that moment which kind of led you guys to saying that, hey, here's what it is? I'll tell you why, because in 2022 at Cloud9, we also attempted to take the company public. If anyone's been down that journey, there are several hurdles to cross through. Right? One from just making up your mind that you want to do this to actually getting it done. We crossed maybe 90% of it and then just figured out that the market was not ready. So one assessment, Bhaskar, in this, despite my apologies to the bankers and analysts here and everyone else, I think their view is very limited in a point in time, right? It's up to the founding team to figure out do you really want to do this or not. How did you guys come up with the decision, go through with this? How much of it was market being ready? Because I was told a lot by a lot of wise men and women that market momentum is everything, right? Despite the company being ready or not ready. Give us a sense of how did you guys go about it?
Yeah, I'll go talk about 3 points in time where I think we had this conversation. 2008, when we started the company as 3 slightly arrogant co-founders and entrepreneurs, we said we will take our company public and we become large enough. So we are kind of absolutely sure about that particular point in time that we will do it at some point in time. But I think journey took a very different path. I think we were not so sure in 2017 that we will survive. So it was a very different path, right? But 2017, when we looked at, I think we were fortunate. 2017, 18, 19, 20, we were like doubling every year, right? Literally, growth was 100% above. Growth was like every year, right? So suddenly from a company which is $0, we were like almost $40-50 million in a matter of 3-4 years. We kind of grown like a weed, right? Literally, I think we were very fortunate to kind of grow that sort of speed, right? So at that point in time is when we actually brought in new investors in the company. So it's only 2020 and 2021 is when we brought our next set of investors. Fortunately, we wanted to give exit to our investors who had existed earlier. And interestingly, everybody made some of them made 10 times, 17 times money, which is good. I think we were kind of happy that at least we could land our investors in the right place. We wanted it to be. And we got a new class of investors starting to come from there. Yeah. Now, if you look at it, for 2023-24 time frame is when we started thinking about it.
Okay.
And when we started thinking about it, again, you should send the 3 of us.
3 years.
2023, 24 is when we started seriously thinking about this. And largely because, first, 2 things first, right? So for us, again, like every other thing, we didn't have any investor pressure. Truly, because they had come in at 2021 and late 2021 is when we had come. So they didn't have any pressure to exit. In fact, if you look at our books also, they exited the least in some sense, right? Because they didn't want to exit. So they were not very happy to exit, actually, the company. Number one. The thought process started in 2024 when I think Srini, Vijay Massey was sitting in the valley, we were debating, hey, should we take the company public or should we continue to be private forever, right? The only thought that came to our mind was lots of our teams, which have been part of this journey for 15 plus years, we wanted to provide a liquidity of sort for them. And that was the only motivation. I remember a distinct conversation where Vidya said, folks, think about it. If each one of our team, people who've been with us, can actually build a house and own a car and have no loans to EMIs to worry about, that's a great emotion. So that was the biggest driver for us. And again, just to give you context, 3 of us as founders, coming from middle class families, very less expectations on money and market. So we were not worried about all of that. So we weren't looking at market, we're not trying to even maximize because the journey starts after the IPO. You get a new set of investors. The next 10 years is super important for us, right? So in fact, if you look at it, we didn't sell a single dollar stock because we didn't want to, because we wanted it to be, we truly committed to this company and what we're trying to do. So we said, let's do it for our own teams and employees. Went to the board, again, like an irrational decision. The board is saying, why do you want to go public? We're like, we're profitable, we're nice, why do you have money in the bank? You have no reason to go public. And yet we took the same contract call like what we did last time of pivoting the business. We said, no, we'll go public because we need our teams to really see liquidity. That was the final mission.
Amazing. So one of the for all the folks who have raised capital in any form or fashion, right? One of the things that we found extremely difficult, Bhaskar, and I would love to get your views, is when we were preparing to go public, is unlike private capital where you are sitting across the table and discussing, helping them understand the business, the potential, looking at things together. In a public market context, the time given for the entire banker analyst, channel or layer is so limited, right? They don't give a shit what you are doing. They just have complete focus on the numbers. How easy or difficult was it to kind of explain a company which is as unique as Amagi, right? And for us, we took a step back because we could clearly see these guys were not understanding what we bring to the table. Was that part of the decision for you guys, or did that go through well?
The good news was we realized it ahead of time that our business is complex that nobody's going to understand. So I think that gave us a good guard to start thinking about it much earlier in the cycle. We tried to perfect it to a point, like what I think Rohit pointed out. I personally did a roadshow for 95 investors across the globe in a less than 45-day cycle. Each meeting is about 90 minutes to a couple of hours, repeating the same thing again and again and again, so that do the same thing. And they have an attention deficit because after that they would have forgotten who's Amagi, right? So they'll go back to the meeting because they're doing hundreds of deals like this, right? But what was fascinating is I think we got the story to make it simple enough. And I felt that was the biggest success for us, actually. More than anything else, I remember coming out of the first meeting and said, okay, these people get what we're doing. Just I think that was the only milestone we were trying to mark to look at is, do they understand our business intuitively as a person? I think that was the biggest success for us, was to only do that.
Yeah.
And financials and others and all of that will follow through. But getting what we do is the biggest challenge.
Amazing. I want to ask the final question because I think we're on time now. How many of you all watched IPL, follow Indian cricket teams stuff and whatever else, right, as sports? How many of you all follow the same in the hands that went up through regular TV versus a streaming service?
I don't think
I want to know. I want to know. There are a lot of people who watch. Yeah, see, there is still. So the question, Bhaskar, is to say, we keep, because IPL is very public in our country, right? We keep hearing of big numbers. They have to tear off the crores into so many decimals because the numbers are so huge. Give us an understanding of how is sports as a medium across the world and how you guys see it. You just mentioned Super Bowl. You mentioned Summer Olympics, the current Winter Olympics which is on, baseball. Where does IPL fit from overall reach to the media hangover to the ad revenue? If you had to kind of put a percentage basis across all of this. And also tell us exactly like this in terms of the split of saying that, hey, are we still at early stage of looking at how this streaming distribution will continue to ramp up? Or do you think we're midway somewhere where everybody is even watching us?
I'll answer the last question for you, right? Just to give you context from a number standpoint, roughly 45% of all the viewership today is on streaming worldwide.
45%?
45% of all viewership today
Okay.
across the globe is in streaming.
45.
45%.
Yeah.
45%. So that's again, this is global. This is global I'm talking about.
Okay.
And this is a trend going forward. So I don't think that this is a singular direction of how we are all going to consume content. I don't think maybe children born now will never know what television is or cable is, satellite is. Right?
Yeah.
So those are all gone, right? Literally, that's it. If you look at it from a media business standpoint, India is relatively in its infancy in terms of the size of the businesses. Although India is large because we are 1.5 billion people, watching content. So that's it, it's large. But US is 70% of all the media business is US. Depth of the business is extremely high. Just to give you, NFL would make about 16 to 17 billion dollars a year. In contrast, IPL is about 2 to 3 billion dollars. Just to give you contrast, right? It's about
30 times.
yes, about 8 times. What are they? $2 billion, 16, 160. 160 billion. So it's clearly IPL is a super success. So don't get me wrong, right? But it's also the size of these media is much more higher in depth in different parts of the globe. And for example, we did Club World Cup, which is actually one of the top tier Club World Cup. It was a soccer event that happened. And DAZN, which is one of our customers running it, we were reaching 2.4 billion people worldwide. That's larger than India for sure, but it's like 2.4. Almost 25% of the globe was watching this content. Now, so the largest is only becoming larger and larger in that sense of the world. And now we do it across 40 plus countries in 400 plus platforms worldwide that we reach today. We do over 3 billion hours of viewership every year right now in our systems with Apple. We're one of the largest CDN vendors for some of the hyperscalers today with Apple. So business has grown, long way to go, but I think streaming is the only future for that.
Amazing. What gives you sleepless nights? The technology or the stock price?
I sleep 8 hours a day, just to give you context. I don't get flustered at most things in life, and I don't see the stock price at all.
What is your stock price today?
I don't see the stock price technically because, and I've kind of recommended all my teams not to worry about stock price because I think it's a power of compounding, doing the right things automatically. Because typically stock markets are like a voting machine on an everyday basis, and like what Bezos says, it's a weighing machine over time. So we need to really work through that, and it's multi-year journey when you see progress, not on an everyday basis. Doesn't matter actually.
Yeah, amazing. Folks, that's it from us. Happy to take any questions if you guys have any. Do we have time, Ritu, for questions now? Okay. What? It's too much ambient noise, no?
Huh?
Too much ambient noise.
Yeah, this one is something running.
So you were mentioning how AI is coming in and how fast tech is changing, how quickly you're able to do things now from speech to execution, right? So are any of the competitors that are coming up now moving faster and ones to watch out for that you're tracking?
See, two parts, right? Business, and I think Ritu knows it better than me actually. Because this business is a very legacy style business. It's been there forever. Television is there. So a lot of the competitors are pretty companies that have been there for decades. So we are literally the most modern company, although we are a decade old system today. Yeah. So we are quite ahead of anybody from a competition standpoint. And again, as an individual and the way we see as a company, we don't worry about competition at all, actually, and not for anything else. We truly believe we're doing the right thing for our customers, and customer value comes in, all things work. So we really focus on innovation, what's customers' needs, being obsessed with our customers is the only thing that we really focus on, not competition, not anything else. Incidentally, two people doing the same job doesn't make us competitors. So in my mind, I don't think that matters.
So you said you have B2B customers. You are a B2B business.
Yes.
Can we know your top 2 customers?
We have largest media companies in the world work with us. The likes of NBC, Comcast, for example, one of the largest media company in the world that works with us. We work with the likes of Fox and Warner Media. So India is literally small for us. Just about a percentage of our business comes from India, so it's small. But large part of our business is in the US and Europe today.
Anyone else?
I don't know. This question is for you. How is your journey to that? When you do like global tax?
Okay, again, not to be repeated. We are, so we just felt internally that there is a certain size in terms of what we are building that we want to take that into the market. We've already crossed that, but we are right now looking to acquire a couple of operators. Once we acquire, we have to kind of bake them in properly. So it's going to take time. It's and again, like Bhaskar said, we have low pressure. Couple of my earliest investors have got double-digit, very healthy returns, and we don't have. But the other thing is, and I was telling Ritu just before, one of the advices that I got was you go into a public market when you have the ability to talk about the next quarter's result, when you already know that it's in the bag. If you are in a position like that, that's a great way to actually go into public, because public markets don't like surprises, right? I mean, yes, if you're a Zomato, if you are a SpaceX and all of that, they can, tell stories and get away with it, right? But not all of us can do it. We'll all be looked at saying, this is what you told me that you're going to do this quarter, did you do it or not, right? As simple as that, right? So if you guys are building companies where you are in a position to actually do that, that's another hurdle which is already in your favor. I don't know if you want to add to that.
I'm just coming back from my earnings call today morning. Typically, we did beat the forecast factually correct. Yes, we did actually beat the forecast. Right? But again, like I think Rohit pointed out, I think more importantly is to really have few quarters of ahead of time. Not only one quarter because it doesn't make sense. You want to really run it for a year where you have clarity in terms of how it's going to play. So sustainability and growth, expectations wise, less of the surprises like what Rohit's pointing out, super important for the streets. But again, it's your narrative and how you want to really pitch it as well. So over time, we're learning. We don't know what's going to happen, but we learn. Yes.
I might just want to check on whether any challenge in bigger is the IT wise, easier of the stock exchange and outside India to work for the team or India. So, work compliance and state and scope of negotiation for the big backbone and for the real competitors.
Now, largely, if you look at it, you designed the whole business for global initially itself, right? And thanks to, because we work on cloud software, cloud is global today because the data centers of an Amazon or a Google or equivalents today are across the globe in some sense. So obviously, media is complex business. So a lot of times we place the content and source of the processing in different locations. So we work across the globe, 40 plus countries. So we have it in different data centers worldwide. So to that extent, it was designed that way from a business standpoint, both from a data sovereignty standpoint, security standpoint, delays and latency standpoint. It's been built for that sort of scale and opportunity.